Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Explorance webinar. Today's webinar is around transforming NSS insights for all. I do appreciate we have people joining the call from our global audience, so maybe from across in America, in the Middle East, in Australia. So I do want to stress that today's presentation is about how the default MLY model, the Student Experience Insights model, has been customized, and it doesn't specifically have to be for the NSS. So everything that we discuss today will work if you want to choose that for your course or module evaluations, if you want to do that for any other industry survey. So whilst a lot of it, the focus will be on NSS, it's very much transferable. So the numbers joining have gone down a little bit. So I'm going to do a quick agenda setting for today's session. My name is Chris Slack. I'm the Solutions Engineering Team Lead at Explorance. I'm going to lead the session today with collaborators Phil Smith, a higher education solution and higher education, I can't get my words out, higher education consultant, and our three panelists as well. They'll all introduce themselves shortly. To start with, I'm going to give a very quick overview to Explorance. We'll then have the panelists introduce themselves. We'll have a panel discussion around the collaboration of how this model was created. Then there'll be a very short demonstration about what MLY is and specifically how the NSS model has helped to transform the outputs of that, and we'll also have a Q&A towards the end. As part of this Zoom meeting, there will be a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you do want to submit any questions to the panel or to Phil at any point, please do use the Q&A box, and towards the end, we will use that to take your questions. So the majority probably know who Explorance are, but for those that don't, we are a feedback analytical company. We've been around for 23 years. Our founder is still our CEO, and we work globally across lots of regional offices to provide feedback analytical solutions to higher education institutions. We work with over 750 institutions now, 24/7 support, high level of retention across a few different product areas. Obviously, with all them institutions, there's a snapshot here from the European and African area, which is where I'm responsible for, but also many away from this region as well. The mission of Explorance is to capture, analyze, and use the data at any point of the student journey. That can be for internal surveys, such as onboarding, all the way through to alumni, with your module and course evaluation, student satisfaction, student experience, sat nicely in the middle. But we can also use our tools to analyze external data sets, such as the NSS, also PTES, PRES, or any other organizational data. That comes from three main products within our technology stack. Blue is a centralized feedback platform that allows you to do those automated centralized evaluations. Blue X is a more decentralized process, allowing different members of staff to do their own research surveys or the library surveys, etc. And the bit in the middle is where we're concentrating today, Explorance MLY, which is an AI-powered qualitative analysis tool. You can put as much free text data as you want into this system, from module evaluations, course evaluations, industry surveys, program surveys, and it will give some outputs back to you around categorizations of topics, around sentiment, around recommendations, and around alerts. So I think most of the people on the call will probably be aware of at least one of these products, and that's how it works in the tech stack, and the focus will be on Explorance MLY. So I've briefly introduced myself already. I'll be one of the moderators of today's panel session, along with Phil Smith. So Phil, would you like to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi there, I'm Phil. Really pleased to be here today. As Chris says, I'm a higher education consultant. I've had the pleasure, though, of working with Explorance for coming up to 10 years now in a communications and marketing capacity. Also done lots of research, insight, and reports into this very agenda that we're going to be talking about today.
Thank you, Phil. So Phil will be leading the questioning within the panel discussion, and I'll be joining him in moderating the questions and answers and things if we have time to cover some of your audience questions. Also joining us are three experts from the field that have all been involved in co-collaborating for this NSS Insights model. So I'm going to take them in order of the screen, so there's no favoritism here. So Dr. Natalie Holland, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Natalie Holland. I'm coming from Teaching and Learning Academy at Liverpool John Moores University. My role is around student voice and evaluation. So we do a lot of mixed methods and institutional research on student experience and student voice. And that includes the analysis and insights from surveys such as NSS, PTES, and then institutional surveys as well.
Thank you, Natalie. Eufoma?
Hi everyone. My name is Ufoma Elegbede and I'm a data analyst currently working in the strategy and insights team at the University of Nottingham. Now, within that team, my role sits within a smaller team that is called internal analytics. And what we do is around data data, stemming within the university and how we translate that into meaningful insights for other business areas within the university. Now, the NSS, which we'll be talking about today, ideally sits with the external analytics team because it's an external survey. However, because my team has built a great deal of experience working with MLY on our other internal surveys, yeah, we'll be collaborating together this year using MLY for NSS and really looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, Eufoma. And finally, Lorna?
Hi there. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lorna Robertson from University of Strathclyde. I'm employed in the Education Enhancement Directorate of the university, and we deal with the main institutional surveys, just like the PTES, NSS, and we have our own like welcome survey. And I'm predominantly, though, involved with student module evaluation at the university, and that's how I kind of started at the university. I was brought in as part of a project team to make sure we had an institutional approach to that.
Perfect. Thank you, Lorna. So 3 very different job roles, job areas, actually doing a very similar thing in terms of the evaluation and the NSS. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can all see everybody in all of their glory, and I'm going to pass over to you, Phil, to start the panel discussion.
Fantastic, Chris. Thanks so much for that. And we've got over 80 participants on the webinar. I think we were struck as well that it's not just a UK audience we're speaking to on this webinar. There are non-UK people. So in terms of a very quick sentence summary on the NSS. So the National Student Survey, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the annual survey conducted in the UK that gathers feedback from final year students about their experiences at university. And I was just refreshing my own mind really as to the scale of this, and there's some really sort of amazing figures about this. But since the National Student Survey started 20 years ago, there's been 5.5 million UK-based students who have given their voice through NSS. So that's the scale we're talking about. In 2025 alone, over 500 higher education providers took part in this survey. 357,000 undergraduates participated, and actually from a response rate perspective, that was almost 72%. So this is a huge thing here in the UK, and the opportunity, of course, with the National Student Survey is that it does generate literally thousands of open text responses each year. So my opening question to the panel, or the opening sort of topic of discussion within the panel, is given the amount of data that you receive through the NSS from open text responses, what are the main challenges that you guys have faced in terms of analyzing and extracting actionable insights from that volume of data? And also previously, how did your institution analyze those comments? So Natalie, I'll come to you first. Sorry to put you on the spot, but do you want to give us your kind of take just to get us going?
Yeah, sure. So we've been using software to support us in the analysis of NSS comments for a very long time. But what the problem we've found in the past is that alternative software, which is really great for analysing and dealing with a large number of text data, aren't necessarily designed for student feedback comments. So our main challenges in the past were looking at the outputs from those very enhanced kind of theoretical large text analysis and unpicking that going into the background of how those themes had been derived, and looking at the back at the comments to understand what are the insights that we want to take away and share wider with the institution. So really for us, it was a time issue. And that was the main challenge. It's such a large data set, even with the pre-existing text analysis software, it was still a large chunk of time that it takes. And in a very time sensitive period as well. Everybody wants to know the outcomes. Everyone wants to know what our students are thinking, particularly if it hasn't been the best results, so that we can take away those action plans as fast as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. And Lorna, does that sort of echo your experiences around that, or slightly different?
It's slightly different at Strathclyde. Again, though, it's down to limited resourcing, so we found it challenging to report in a timely manner while ensuring a high quality analysis. But we're also at the university very mindful of the high profile that goes along with NSS, as the results are obviously under a lot of scrutiny within the institution. Unlike Natalie at Strathclyde, it was a very manual process which involved members of the team manually coding every single comment into categories, which took time. So this wasn't great, is because the reporting on NSS results was disjointed, as our reporting on the qualitative stuff actually became behind the quantitative stuff, and it lagged by several weeks, which isn't ideal. As Natalie says, people are there wanting the results quickly, so we certainly needed to use a different approach, and having MLY alone was a starting point for us last year, but obviously having the customised analysis has taken another level.
Thank you, Lorna. And obviously we'll come into the ins and outs of the MLY NSS model in a bit. But Euphoma, just maybe just some further reflections from you in terms of those challenges and the previous practice that you were undertaking in terms of analysing NSS comments.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I think the way we've done it historically at the University of Nottingham is we've just taken the comments the way we get them from Ipsos Mori. So we usually get the comments split into two categories. So you have the positive comments and the negative ones. And so we just put that in a Tableau dashboard. And users can then apply filters, to view those comments at course or department level. And then we have a search functionality that lets you search for keywords. So for example, you could type in library and see all the comments, related to the library. I think two major challenges with that approach, is first of all, student comments are usually not, that binary in split. So it's not always positive and negative. It could be mixed. And, sometimes you could have comments like, the course was fantastic. However, feedback was slow. But we realized that it was being chucked in one bucket. And so you immediately lose half the insight. And then I think the other issue was using the search bar to interrogate comments meant, it was reactive, basically. You needed to know what you were looking for. And so in situations where people have, made, very valid arguments or comments, without knowing to look for it, we could just miss that data. And I think one thing that we realized when we started using MLY for other surveys was we wanted to see a connection between our quantitative and qualitative, results, which we couldn't do easily or confidently with the current approach. So I'll say those were our major limitations.
Thank you. So just to summarize some of the things that I think I've heard. So, and doubtless this will be very familiar to some of the other delegates on the call, but resource intensive, time consuming, the need to move faster, have more accurate or more nuanced understanding of the open ended comments coming back through NSS. So lots of sort of bespoke challenges in institutions in your own institutions. But look, step forward the MLY NSS model. Can you walk us through your motivation to get involved with us in developing and utilizing the AI-driven MLY for NSS qualitative analysis? And I suppose what advantages does that provide? And Ufoma, if you're happy just to sort of continue with regards to that question as well, that would be fantastic to get us going.
Yes, so I think I mentioned the fact that we started using MLY last year, I think March of 2025, with our other surveys. So it felt like a natural progression. We had seen what it could do. And so when we got the email from the team at Explorance, asking if we would like to be part of the development of this custom model, we felt like it was presenting more of an opportunity than a risk. So we were very happy to collaborate on it. And I think what really was valuable for us was being able to have that platform to feedback, some of the things that we had picked from, the months of experience using MLY. We could bring our experience as an institution, we could bring our challenges, our requirements, and, feed that to the team. And I think another thing that has been valuable for us is also the collaboration, not just with the team at Explorance, but also with other universities when we have like user groups and, so having that platform to just keep the conversation ongoing was really attractive for us. And then see how we can use the power of AI to improve student outcomes, through our surveys.
Thank you. And Laura, to you, I mean, your relationship with Explorance goes back many years, of course, not just around MLY, but around Blue as well. But just talk to us about your sort of involvement in this project, and yeah, I suppose the role that you've had in it and the advantages that it gives you.
Yeah, no problem. I was keen to collaborate with other members of the sector, as I had previously worked with a colleague to create a MLY NSS customized analysis that Strathclyde could use itself. So I wanted to share my experience and gain insight and thoughts on how best to map MLY's extensive themes to those of NSS. But I also wanted to cheekily take advantage of Chris's deeper understanding of the MLY themes, which would help me assess how close the analysis that Strathclyde had created was to that of Explorance. So how this helped us is around the actual MLY tool itself, because initially the mapping of the MLY themes to those of the NSS was the hardest and the longest part of the process, but a very important part of it. The MLY tool then very easily allows you to create the customized analysis by renaming existing themes and dragging and dropping. So it's a very intuitive tool, which really helps. And as Chris mentioned earlier about the MLY Student Experience Insight model is a great starter for anybody who wishes to create, obviously, a customized analysis. But even although I would say the mapping required is time consuming, it's well worth taking that time, as it's still very much, I would say, a time saver in the long run.
Thanks, Laura. That's great. And Natalie, again, Liverpool John Moore's long-standing Explorance partner. And for you guys, you've been at the forefront of innovation around MLY for many years now. So just talk to us about how you got involved in the NSS custom model as well, and again, your own experience of the development.
Yeah, it was very similar reasons to Lorna. And really, we had for 2 years been developing an NSS custom model for ourselves, and we'd found it a very beneficial but time-consuming process, and that mapping and understanding how those pre-existing themes had come about based on the comments and how to map that onto NSS terminology. It was really beneficial then to work collaboratively to understand the best way to do that, to enhance and develop what we're looking at as a sector. And I think that's one of the benefits we saw in this and are hoping to see in the future as well, is if we have a basis as a sector for how we can and analyse our NSS comments, but crucially with allowing for individuals to make adaptations and changes to that, which I think is quite crucial. But having that basis leads to potential for further collaboration and even potential sector benchmarking, or looking at how your comments as an institution compare to national themes that might be able to come through. So I think we saw potential for the future here as well as initial benefit for our own NSS model.
Yeah, absolutely, and that potential for the future is key as well as the here and now. And no doubt there'll be people on the webinar sort of thinking about how this can work for them. So my next question really, and Lorna, if you're happy to take this one first, just building on what you said in your last point, but how will the development of this NSS custom model change your approach institutionally? How do you see it impacting sort of how it helps you with data mapping to the core NSS themes, and how will you kind of utilize the model going forward?
Okay, so Strathclyde's approach per se won't change, but what the customized model has done, that will make the process of reporting more time efficient, as it's taken out that hard work of the recording of the themes, because the model has already done that for you. But Strathclyde will be using the model in the upcoming NSS reporting cycle, which I can't believe is just going to be at the beginning of next month. At the same time, we will be looking though at using other features of MLY, which includes the MLY summary, that help us identify recommendations, strengths, areas of improvements that are contained within the free text comments that are received through the responses. This now gives us the opportunity to integrate a summary of the free text comments, which we were not able to previously do due to resources. So this is going to help us develop our reporting capabilities at the university. But I would put a wee bit of caution in though about the MLY summary. It's a great starting point, however, with the caveat that a human sense check should be undertaken with it, and maybe incorporation of some institutional language as well. But as I say, it will enhance our reporting being delivered at the university, and we will also be considering using the model as a basis for creating other customized models for other surveys at the institution.
Thank you, Lorna. Foma, are you happy to just sort of come in and build on that in terms of how the model is is changing your approach, if at all, and obviously the benefits of that going forward?
Yeah, thank you. So like I mentioned earlier, we would be using the model, for the first time on our NSS survey this year. So it's really going to be a transformational change for us. We'll be moving from that reactive discovery of themes to proactive discovery. So we're excited to, move forward with this. And if we were going to build some of the things that Natalie and Lorna, spoke about, it would take us weeks of coding, to get those themes and to get that insight from the data. So we are, obviously going to be moving from what could have been extremely manual and time consuming to getting, insights very quickly. And Lorna also spoke about like the features of MLY, and it's something that we're really excited about at the University of Nottingham. So recommendations, for example. Yeah, it's one thing to have the, themes coded and given, categories. But then for our senior leaders, without going through a lot of the dashboard, they could go to recommendations and see what students are saying in terms of, oh, this is what we want you to start doing. This is what we want you to stop doing or to change. So we really see that it's going to be a quick move from, data to insight to action. And that's going to be really, positive for us. And I think, in as much as we know that you can't ultimately draw, that line between quantitative and qualitative comments every time, and especially because the NSS results are not individualized, they come aggregated, to different levels. We still feel like that there will be benefits in looking at the scores, to see where we're performing well or where we're underperforming, and then interrogate the qualitative comments to see, what are the top N, themes, where are we doing very well, and can we actually see why the quantitative results are the way they are. So we're really excited about the new approach. And like I said, we've used it on other surveys and it was well received at the university. So we believe it will be same with the NSS.
Fantastic, thank you. And Natalie, just to close on this this question.
Yeah, I think just to build on what Euphoma said there, one of the reasons we moved to MLY in the first place was this recommendations feature, where MLY doesn't just analyze the comments and provide thematic analysis and sentiment analysis, but it also pulls out the recommendations, and that saves a lot of time being able to look very quickly at what students are recommending as their most top priorities. But to go back to the NSS model and changes in our practice, one of the key things for us is the terminology and the consistency in terminology. So when we're reporting our quantitative analysis, what we were worried about is putting MLY out there with a load of terminology that wasn't consistent. So having this NSS model really allows us to align that with the rest of our reporting on NSS and gives us a bit more confidence in being able to share that with a wider audience and it being understood where the links are and where the commonalities are there.
Terrific, thank you. We have got some questions coming through the Q&A, which is great. And we'll cover those off as part of or after Chris's demonstration. But I've got one more question for the panelists before we go on to Chris, and it's just really in terms of, I suppose, a bit of advice for institutions who are on the call. Maybe they're thinking about this model, and it's really, I suppose, just taking a step back and summarizing why, what do you see as the main reasons why you might adopt or consider adopting the MLY NSS model, and also the advice, tips you would give to people in terms of getting the most out of the platform and translating those insights into tangible improvements. So Natalie, are you happy just to sort of pick that one up first of all? So yeah, the reasons to consider adopting it and advice to peers.
Yeah, well, I think if you're using MLY already and you're analysing NSS comments, then why not use it really? Because it's a no-brainer for me. It aligns the terminology. It uses the same themes that are in MLY anyway, but categorises them in the way that makes sense, particularly for the NSS survey. So it's going to allow you to a more enriched analysis and a terminology and a language that is more familiar with the audience that you're going to be communicating with. One of the reasons why, another reason why we went towards MLY, and one of the biggest tips that I'd say we could give for MLY and the NSS model, but any model really through MLY, is the functionality to allow filters so that we can analyse and look at the differences in thematic analysis based on different groups of students. So that could be department, school, faculty, but we particularly use it for more demographic groups. So then we can look at how different students from different backgrounds are experiencing their education. And that can feed into things like APP, access and participation plans, and TEF as well. So it really does allow you a rich data source that can then feed into more strategical planning and oversight. So that is a big tip from me.
Fabulous. Thank you, Natalie. Laurie, are you happy to build on that?
Yep. One of the other great features about MLY is the sharing capabilities, that then you've got this rich information. And previously, it's been a trudge to try and get it out to the right people. But MLY helps with that, because you can set up groups and make sure that you target to the correct people. So if you're only wanting people in a set faculty to receive their own information inside of it, you can just open it up to just them. So that is absolutely great as well. We haven't done that yet. I think we're a wee bit away from doing that, but it's certainly something I think for us to work towards, because I think it's something that would be great, because again, it's a quicker way of getting that information out to people, as being able to share the dashboard view with people. I think that's great. But I would also like to not be negative, but put just a wee bit of caution with everybody, is beware of the shortcomings of not just AI, but obviously particularly any kind of tool, is that it doesn't always categorize every comment. So you have to be aware that there are some limitations there, and that you might have to do some additional work with it. So just to make people aware of that.
Thank you, Lorna. And transparency is always important in terms of this innovation has always got steps that you'll need to do as a human, and rightly so. Yufoma, just any further sort of advice, top tips for colleagues on the in the meeting on how to get the most from this new model?
Yeah, I think building on from what Natalie and Lorna have said, I think the additional thing I would say is to first of all talk to the team at Explorance, because that's what we've experienced. They're always open to communication and collaboration. So if you have questions about what the tool can do, reach out to them. I also know that it's been helpful for us to use the platform, the website. The website has a lot of resources, and so you can see previous webinars, you can see case studies of other universities or institutions using the tool. And so when you look at it, you can know what to expect even before committing to it. Now, in terms of committing to it, I would say it is a good idea, because at the end of the day, our role, analyzing data in universities is not just to gather these comments, it's actually to improve student experience or staff experience, depending on how you're using the tool. So, yeah, interrogate with the tool, and then, take the actions from it and translate it into insights, basically. And I like what Lorna said earlier on about the fact that even though the tool does these categorizations for you, you should still go in and, look at the structure. It's flexible. You can change things around if it doesn't work for you. So it's not a generic, one size fits all tool. Yeah, I think that'll be it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you. Chris, probably a good time to just come to you really in terms of the MLY NSS model showcase. Obviously, there's some questions that have come into the chat which we can take as well. But yeah, over to you really, just to give a bit of a demo, bit of an oversight.
Perfect. Thank you, Phil. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to take a step back to sort of where the first question came from in terms of the advantages of MLY. What is MLY? How does it work? Again, not presuming that everybody in attendance today has seen the system before. On screen right now, you have an output of what MLY would look like. So there's various screens. The only thing that's taken place before this is the upload of the data set. I didn't want to sit here for 10 minutes watching a circle go around. So here I have 9,000 dummy data comments. It's not real data. It's dummy student comments. And in case you spot things around the way, they are a few years old, and there are some references to the pandemic, which you might well see in this data set. Right now, we are looking at the default MLY model. Okay, we have 4 categories across the top. So the automatically generated summary, which Lorna made reference to, that looks across a generalization of what all of your data is saying across alerts, so harassment, racism, inappropriate language, general well-being, anything that really come to the fore from your data set. Recommendations from the data sets in terms of doing less of certain things, doing more of other things, starting or stopping. As was mentioned, human oversight, transparency is all very important in this. So MLY will not tell you, you must do A, you must do B. It will simply bring the information to your attention that from 9,000 comments, these are the top 3 things coming up that students suggest you may want to do, you may want to have a look at. And I'll show you in a minute how you can click through and get more detail on these. There's also areas for improvements related to the topic categories that have been made and the strengths, the good things that are going on as well. The idea of the summary page is you can have a key takeaway of information at an institution level, at a department level, or as Natalie mentioned, with demographics, to do with race, to do with gender, to do with maybe their type of program, distance learning against campus, etc. Full flexibility in what is displayed. And the filters are available for me here. Now, these filters are specific to the data that you put in. So you would only have access here to the data that you have brought in with your data set, but I could, if I wanted, have a look at the full-time students, and my summary relatively quickly will regenerate now, looking across all of my data sets and bring me just the information that was being mentioned by the full-time students. You have different areas. If I clear that filter, we have the overview, which looks at the 4 key areas of MLY, which is sentiment analysis, number of positive comments, number of negative comments, or mixed, very much possible. They could be talking about both things in the same data set. The topic categorizations mapped at the moment to the default MLY model. Recommendations that are pulled out. Commonly we ask a question, what one thing would you improve? Well, in its own nature, because of the wording of the question, there are recommendations contained within that answer. That's what you are asking for. So whilst the topics do matter, the recommendations are also crucial. And finally, the alerting engine as well, looking across different areas of interest where you may have issues that you can look into. You may want to look into more detail. We have the topic explorer. This puts the topic tree on the page and tells you your overall global sentiments on the right-hand side. Now, as I mentioned, this is the default model. There are 1,400 topics in this model. If I actually just go to a different screen, I'll show you exactly how that looks. This is what your comments will be analysed against. So real diverse level of topics within here. It ranges about everything from the things you'd expect, so maybe around courses or modules, maybe around the people, or maybe around the teaching, but also for anything else, campus services, library, transportation, well-being. But this is the default model. It might not be structured quite as you would like it, and that's the idea of the changes with the custom model to the NSS. The last thing to show in terms of this general is that everything is transparent. You can look around the data, and that's what's very different actually to a lot of other AI tools that may give you some sort of output. They may give you some sort of summary. This is what your data was saying, but without that transparency of why is it saying that? How is it saying that? How can we verify the information that's going on? So I go into my topic sentiments, you will see, if you wish, every single one of those 9,000 comments with the sentiment, with all the tags that have been made, with any recommendations, with any alerts. Granted, language is always subjective. So you can absolutely add your own version of comments in alongside this. If I want to tag this in a particular way, so that actually this is one of my favorite comments, I want to follow up on this, I can add my own internal references. I can use the filters and the searches and the sorts to be able to find that again later on. Because AI can look across what it's learnt, but maybe there's nuances at a local level or at a national level that haven't quite been picked up. But the advantage here is the human oversight can look around. The transparency is there. You can see exactly what has happened. So taking a step forward to the customized NSS model. Whilst this is fantastic, it works really well. It's been used by a lot of institutions globally and a lot of institutions in the UK over the past few years. Maybe it doesn't quite map to exactly what we want to see on this screen. There's a lot of detail, things are maybe not grouped together in a particular way. The NSS example I will use, that's the most probably famous of the 7 themes, because institutions always get bad marks on this one, is assessment and feedback. In the default model, assessment is listed underneath the course. Kind of makes sense. Assessment takes place in the course. Feedback is more generic and is further down here got a few less categorizations on this, but then we have the information about feedback and what they were talking in terms of their feedback. Typically, for the NSS, we absolutely want them grouped together. So what we have access to is the ability to create as many custom models as we want. Now, this has been available for a while, but when there's so many topics, working out how you want to put them together, the best use of time, how long this takes, not every institution has made full use of them. I think both Strathclyde and Liverpool John Moores did reference the fact that they've put something together around this already locally. Nottingham haven't, along with a lot of other institutions. So the custom model for the NSS Insights looks a little bit like this. Much smaller, much tidier, I would probably say, and maps to the 7 core NSS themes plus 3. It was quite difficult to map 1,400 topics into just 7 overall themes. But we can see the standard themes that we have in NSS. So teacher on my course, learning opportunities, assessment and feedback, academic support, organisation management, learning resources, and student voice. The reason we kept another 3 was we felt that health and wellbeing was really important and didn't kind of lend itself anywhere in the natural 7 that we had. Institutional feedback, because the NSS tends to talk about course and programs and people, but it's still absolutely reasonable that something would be mentioned about the value for money or general institutional information, and also campus services. So if things were mentioned about the gym or the food or the travel or student union comments, which again don't fit into your traditional teaching structure, we don't want to ignore them. There may be some valuable insights. So we managed to get this down to 10. So we collaborated with existing MLY customers to get to this point. And you would not believe the struggles we had in coming to a consensus as to exactly how this should be structured. As again, it's language, it's themes, it's models. Everybody has their own different opinions. So we came to this final version of the model. I'll do a quick breakout so you can see exactly what's included in some of these areas. Okay, I'm not going to go any more because it's going to go off the page. But you can see the level of detail that's going to be mapped directly to the NSS themes that we know. Don't quite like it? Think something belongs a little bit different place? You can absolutely edit the structure yourself. So the ability is still there, but instead of starting from all of the topics in the SEI model, you're starting from the NSS model. So if you absolutely think that one of these campus services, the housing, belongs somewhere else, about maybe organisation and management, academic support, you can absolutely, I've got to be careful here because this is a live model, you can absolutely drop and drag, move them around and make it slightly more specific to your institution. Because even though we're talking about the same data sets, the same questions and the same themes, interpretation can often be different. So my last point, how does that then map to the exact same data set? So another 9,000 comments, the exact same information mapped now to my NSS Global Insights model. The main difference is the language will change. The other difference is that all of my categorizations and tags will change. So you may have noticed before, one of the recommendations, it's the same data set, was to do less expenses or fees. It's the same information, same data set, so it's got the same results, but instead we've tagged this to the tree and the topic structure that's defined in the NSS model, and that will be respected throughout all of the different areas of this information. It's respected in the overview, where our topic sentiments will now just show 10, because we've only got 10 in the model. So all of the information is visible and front and center. And if I go in, as we did before, to view these topics in line, again, you'll see the paths of where these sit in terms of the topic structure have been updated. So bringing this around to a possible non-NSS scenario, whether it's PTES or PRES in the UK, whether it's the Australian version or the benchmarking in the Middle East, you can see how the exact same comments have been categorized in a different way. Maybe we'll just have a quick look at some. I've got a few categorizations on here, but they have been tagged and mapped to what you recognize in terms of language. There's no necessity to only use this on your NSS dataset. This can be used on any datasets. I don't want to put words in Natalie's mouth, but Liverpool John Moores are one of the users that uses this across course evaluations and other surveys, so they can monitor this level of progression throughout. So you can see here the level of detail mapped to the teaching on my course, mapped to the academic support, mapped to the learning resources, everything that is in the NSS model. And the final view here on Topic Explorer, this was the really long list that we saw before, much more concise. In fact, everything now fits on that one page with global sentiments, but also we can drill down into sentiment across the different areas. So assessment and feedback in this demo data set is less about the feedback and actually more around the assessment pieces themselves. So it's a high-level overview of both MLY and the NSS Insights model. It's not a full demo. I appreciate some may have seen MLY before, some may not. There's lots more to show, but hopefully we can see the value of any custom model here, not just NSS, but customize it to what you want to do as an organization or as an institution, map into your terminology, your language, your themes, etc. Phil.
Thanks, Chris. And there's a few sort of practical or technical questions in the chat, which you may well be best placed to answer. So if you're okay, we'll just sort of answer those. So the first is just around categorization. I'm picking up on something Lorna said around merely not categorizing every comment. Just why, is that? What's the criteria for categorization?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is machine learning. It's trained on real comments. There's a supervised learning approach to this. So we have linguistic experts in our head office that code comments independently. And when there's an agreement on how they should be coded, which is done in the technology, it makes it into the model. So it could be that there's a comment about nothing that's ever been coded before in the back end, which will mean it's not going to guess or code that comment. The majority of uncategorized comments are very small, so it might just be a no, yes, NA, nothing to say sort of thing. But there will still be a few you look through and think, oh, I'm a bit surprised that hasn't been categorized. It's absolutely about the continued development of the model. The big difference is it's transparent. It is there for you to see. It's not hidden away. It's not, we didn't categorize these. It's there for you to see. You can add your own categories to them if you wish, which will normally be a much smaller percentage of comments that you can then add to. And you can also inform Explorance of what tags you have actually added to that to help inform the model going forward. It is very much a community. I think Euphoma was the person that mentioned that earlier. A community here amongst all of us to continue to make the model better, but also present information in a factual way. Whilst language is subjective, we would rather not categorize than categorize incorrectly. Lots of false positives across the data set, which really doesn't help because your insights then become wrong.
Thanks, Chris. And does the system take a paragraph? So the person who's asked the questions talks about how students have a lot to do in a day. Does the system break down that into individual comments, for example, teaching, quality, timetabling, and so on? Would it treat it as one comment or break it down?
Okay, so it will treat it as one comment, and there's no limit to the length of comment that can be provided. I don't want to get too technical, but what it actually does is strips out punctuation, full stops, so that grammatical errors are not a possible. So it sees it as one big lump of text. Okay, so we're not after not perfect spelling. It needs to be some there or thereabouts. Not perfect grammar. Appreciating that English isn't always the first spoken language of UK institutions or whatever the mother tongue language of your institution is. So we'll treat it as one block of text. It will look through that. And what it will actually give you, which is a slight change to some people that have had MLY for a while, is it will give you the 7 highest scoring categories from that individual comment. So it's not saying that we're going to pick out absolutely everything, because what we got to at a point was when some long comments were being submitted, we were getting 20 to 25 insights, when actually some of those insights were just because they said the teacher was good at some point in a long paragraph. Whilst it's useful, there's not a lot of context behind it. It wouldn't score particularly highly. So we give you the 7 highest insights, up to 7. Obviously, not every comment is going to get 7, but we'll give you the highest scoring areas about what's been discussed in that entire block of text. And it can be a mix of both positive and negative in the same data set as well.
Perfect, Chris. Couple of questions from the same person. Do you have to re-upload the comments to use a different model? And can you download the Topic Explorer tables?
A couple of good questions. No, you do not need to re-upload your data set. You can simply go into the settings. In fact, I can very quickly show that one. No problem. I'm guessing that's probably from, I can't see, but from a current customer. So let me go into my non-NSS comments here. So this analysis has already taken place. I've already got all the outputs. It's already mapped to the default model. If I go into my analysis settings, there's an option on here to just if I click the right place, to choose the right custom model, and I can just click my global NSS insights and it will reanalyze. The possible follow-up question, if you are a current customer, is this does not use any quota, it does not do anything else, because nothing's actually changed. All that's changed is the language and the mapping. The comments itself will still be analysed in the same way. So there's no quota usage. You simply enable it on your existing data set. There was a follow-up question to that second part of that, and I can't remember what it was, Phil.
It was. Sorry. Can you download the Topic Explorer tables?
That was the question, yes. As things stand, no, I'm afraid not. It has to be viewed in the custom model tab. It is something that's been asked for by a couple of customers, especially during this process. So it's something we're working on, but right now, no, it's viewable in the user interface only.
Okay. Are you able to tweak the summary page content?
Again, not right now. The summary page is relatively new, using our own large language model in sort of last 6 months. So again, it's on the roadmap actually to be able to tweak the order of things and how things are displayed to make it more specific to your institution. But right now, it's as you get, but it's a pretty neat advancement in terms of the opportunities with AI and the tools and what can be provided, and the ability to give you a summary on 9,000 comments pretty instantaneously. But yes, the order is something we're looking at.
Okay, the questions keep coming, which is great.
And why are they all for me, Phil?
Well, we will go back to the expert panel, of course, but some of these are. So, do you need multiple licenses to look at multiple surveys? For example, NSS internal surveys, or can one license do this all? Well, and what is the cost? Maybe the cost is for another
yes,
day.
The
but
cost
no,
is not my domain. One license does it all. So one license, you can upload module, course evaluation, whatever you call it, program evaluations, onboarding surveys, alumni surveys, student union surveys, NSS, Peter Express. One license gives you access to the tool where you can upload the relevant data sets. Pricing is based on size of institution and a few other factors. Please do reach out to us. Again, I can't see who that is. Please do reach out to us for further information, and we can discuss that with you, but it's not my domain to even tell you.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to open this up after one more question, Chris, to the other guys. But well, it's a really, really good and sensible question, just in terms of when will the model be available to existing MLY customers, and I guess by extension to anybody who's not a customer that may well be interested in it.
Yep, great question. I don't know who asked. This version of the custom model is available to all UK customers already on your instance, except 2, which may be one of those 2 that have asked the question. I don't know. So if you go into your MLY environment, this model will be available as custom models. You can use it with immediate effect. You can tinker and change, drop and drag if you want to change anything with immediate effect. Any new customers will get this as standard as part of a new package, so can be deployed in time for the NSS results day if we get our house in order. University procurement isn't always particularly quick, but could be released in time for NSS next month and will be default. As for the 2, I can't remember their names anyway, I don't know who's asked, though, because you're on an older version of MLY, we couldn't deploy it, but we're working on that. So if you're one of those 2, you'll get it soon. Everybody else, log in, have a look, and it will be there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Okay, so for any questions that are answered, we will, of course, follow up with those who have asked the questions, particularly on the technical stuff. But I think there's a couple of great questions in the chat for the panels, and a one as well. It's somebody's asked, how much trust do you put in MLY? AI is fantastic, but it always needs some check-in. How much time does that take? Natalie, just in terms of that sort of trust question, you've been a long time user of MLY, of course. What's your take on that?
I think, as Chris said, it's developing and improving year on year, and the more people use it, the more it learns and the more it improves. I think with any AI product, especially analysis of large text data, you do still need to read the comments, but that is part of understanding qualitative research. You wouldn't want to just trust it, send it out, and not actually understand what goes behind those themes. But what MLY does is that it saves that enormous time in the first place in terms of categorizing those themes and giving you those themes and recommendations. It's a starting point where you can then explore behind those themes and make sure that it resonates with what you are expecting, thinking, feeling. And then you can make those changes if needed. But it will still require you to read those comments behind the themes and understand the comments and the themes so that you, as a researcher, understand what your data set is telling you. So that still takes time, but that initial analysis is done for you to save that. So it halves the time, maybe.
Okay, thank you. I am conscious of time. We've got 3 minutes left officially, but there is a good question in here about how it'd be great to hear more about how MLY helps to close the feedback loop, and also how information feeds into things like you said we did. Lorna, Euphoma, do you have any sort of views on the closing the feedback loop and MLY and how that all works?
I'm sorry
Lorna.
to say we haven't given any thought to that side of it yet. It's an interesting concept to be able to try and do something with it. So I'll maybe get my thinking cap on for that. So it's nice to get a question like that put to make us think.
Thank you. Euphoma, Natalie,
Yeah.
anything to add?
So I was going to say that, from our use of MLY last year, that was one thing, that was actually flagged. The fact that we can now actually look at the data and say, this is how far we've come in terms of listening to what the students are saying and what we've implemented. And so even our departmental heads can then, have that traceability of how far they've gone in terms of solving some of those issues that have been raised. So I would say yes, as an institution, we're actively engaging with that data to close the feedback loop. And the students can tell because year on year, when you use MLY, you can then look at the feedback and see, are people still saying the same things they said last year? Or are we having better feedback? And that way you're able to trace improvements.
Okay. I think the final question that I'll put to the panel is this, and if anybody has an answer, please come forward. But it's how you found how this performs with historic data sets. Did the results vary dramatically with the default SEI model, which HEI may have been using by default previously? Any perspectives on that one from the panel?
I could talk about that because we had done a test run with the default SEI model on our NSS data sets prior to this model. And then when we were involved in this, we also did another, run through. And I would say that with our data, we found that it was a very good correlation. The percentages were same, the coding was same, the categorization was same. And I think that gave us confidence on trust in the model. So what this model does is actually puts, sub-themes under that hierarchy that fits the NSS structure. So the fact is, it's not changing anything per se, but it's just saving your time in categorizing those things so you know what you're looking at, in terms of NSS when you look at the data.
Thank you so much, and thanks to all the panel for your time and input today. It's been fascinating. Chris, I know you've got one final slide. For those who put questions in the chat, we will respond to those. We will pick up those with you individually. So Chris, just to close.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Basically, there's been some questions today about sort of next steps. We will be reaching out to lots of people after the event, both current customers and non-customers. But if you do want to scan this QR code, if you want more information from us, then please feel free to do so, whether that is to get a demo, which can be generic, it can be to one of your data sets, whether it's to look at the NSS model in more detail, or if it's just to request some pricing, as was one of the questions earlier. I'll leave this on screen just until we close now, but please do scan that, submit your details, and then we can follow up with you. On that note, I'd like to thank Phil for moderating today's panel. Thanks to Lorna, Natalie, and Euphoma as well for your fantastic insights. And thank you everyone else for joining us. We hope it's been of use to you, and hopefully the NSS custom model can be used by your institution to make a lot more speedy, insightful decisions based on your data that, as Lorna said, is less than 1 month away. Thank you, everyone.